Blanche strides into the pastel-toned living room, brandishing her community college catalog, her eyes gleaming with purpose. She announces to Dorothy, Rose, and Sophia that she's enrolled in an introductory psychology class, part of her plan to qualify for a coveted curator position at the Miami Museum of Art. She pictures herself debating Freudian theory over martinis and can't resist lecturing Rose on the merits of understanding human behavior. Rose, ever supportive, volunteers to quiz Blanche on Pavlov's dogs, while Sophia rolls her eyes and mutters, "Next, you'll need me to analyze your cheesecake cravings." In the days that follow, Blanche tosses herself into study sessions, filling the coffee table with textbooks, flashcards, and colored highlighters. Dorothy helps her outline term papers on developmental stages, while Rose delivers trays of macaroons as brain fuel. Even Sophia joins in, quite literally scribbling notes in the margins, though she insists her real motivation is ensuring Blanche doesn't forget to pay the electric bill. Despite the camaraderie, Blanche's confidence wavers as she faces an unfamiliar world of jargon, detailed research papers, and the stark realization that her Southern charm won't earn her an A. The morning of the midterm exam, Blanche arrives at campus in a crisp blouse and matching pearls, determined to prove herself. But as she flips through the multiple choice questions, one on Piaget's stages of cognitive development, another on the validity of projective tests, her stomach knots. She lingers at question 15, rereading the phrasing on ink blots and subliminal drives, and feels a cold wash of panic. She's woefully unprepared. Back in the apartment, Blanche collapses onto the sofa, cheeks flushed and eyes welling with tears. She admits to Dorothy and Rose that she bombed the exam, her bravado shattered. Rose wraps her in a comforting hug, sharing tales of her own academic disasters in St. Olaf, like the time she mistook molasses for maple syrup on a chemistry lab experiment, while Dorothy recounts how she overcame her fear of public speaking by joining the debate team. Their shared vulnerability reminds Blanche that intelligence isn't measured by grades alone, and that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Determined to turn things around, Blanche schedules office hours with Professor Cooper, a distinguished man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes, at least in the lecture hall. But when she arrives at his wood-paneled study, he closes the door behind her and offers her a personal grade boost after hours. He suggests they discuss her paper over dinner, his tone shifting from academic to alarmingly intimate. Blanche's pulse races as she realizes he's trading grades for companionship. Shaken, Blanche flees the office and races back to the apartment, where she confesses to Dorothy and Rose what happened. Anger and concern ignite in Dorothy's eyes as she vows to confront the professor, while Rose fumes at the thought of any woman being coerced into a bargain for grades. Sophia, ever blunt, slams her rolling pin on the table and declares that consent must never be negotiable, especially not when power dynamics are at play. Together, they resolve to challenge the harassment and support Blanche's right to an honest education. Fueled by indignation, Dorothy and Rose accompany Blanche to the dean's office, clutching her original exam and the professor's office hours slip. But the dean, embarrassed by the accusation, insists there's insufficient evidence and warns Blanche of potential reputational harm. Blanche's shoulders slump as bureaucratic barriers loom, and she feels the sting of injustice more sharply than any failing grade. Not willing to back down, the three women concoct a plan. They'll focus on defeating the harassment with sheer academic excellence. Rose offers to coach Blanche through study drills each evening. Sophia volunteers to quiz her on everything from behaviorism to biopsychology, and Dorothy reserves a study carrel at the library. As the apartment fills with practice exams, macaroons, and occasional laughter at Sophia's unorthodox mnemonic rhymes, Blanche rediscovers her determination, ready to prove her worth on her own terms. While Blanche battles academia, Dorothy becomes obsessed with securing tickets to Frank Sinatra's sold-out Miami concert. She attempts phone line marathons at midnight, only to hear the dreaded sold out message. Rose and Sophia rally to her cause. Rose wins a quartet of tickets on a radio call-in. Sophia smooths over a scalper's guilt with homemade cheesecake in exchange for two more, and Blanche, momentarily relieved of study, calls in a favor from a museum board member. They end up with 8 front row seats, but find themselves flagged by an undercover officer when they offer the extra tickets to a desperate fan. The night ends with them sipping solidarity martinis in a precinct-holding cell, Sinatra's voice echoing faintly from a distant radio. Exam day arrives, and Blanche takes her seat with a steely resolve. Each question she once feared now prompts a confident response, the product of late-night study sessions and unwavering support. When the final bell rings, she rises with her head held high, no shortcuts, no compromises. A week later, Blanche walks into class clutching her graded midterm, an A. Relief floods her as Dorothy and Rose envelop her in applause. She strides to the dean's office, not to demand retribution, but to request a transfer to a spring seminar. Proof that her integrity, not manipulation, drives her success. Back at the apartment, the 4 friends celebrate with champagne, Sinatra softly crooning in the background. Blanche toasts, "To education earned and friendships tested," and they clink glasses, knowing that true growth comes from courage, solidarity, and the refusal to compromise one's principles.